starting really young, doing a mail business, and so again, a lot of fun, a lot to agree on. I told him I'm going to pick on him on a regular basis because he does 1 minute videos, and when you do a 1 minute video, there's got to be stuff left out because you can't cover the whole thing, and so I'll just cover the stuff he leaves out, as if he didn't even know what he was talking about. He laughed. Anyway, so here it comes, Steve Falk, and I think you really enjoy it. I'll put a link down below so you can reach out to him if you think you're interested in what he's talking about. Really exciting stuff. In the 90s, I was big stuff, and then the internet came, and everybody hired people with 10 seconds of experience in anything and said that it was all going to be different, so you had to get a web expert. And, of course, I'd built more websites than most of them, but that didn't matter. So I said, mail is going to come back. It's never going to go away. But then I got
like,
less.
what I say is like most things, stuff goes through transformations, but usually the very best quality aspects of any communication tool, done by the very best people with the best results, that remains, and the crappy stuff deserves to go away.
Well, right, and that's where I'm basically at now.
Yeah, I get it. You have that basic message, and it's good.
So
I agree. I line up, as you can probably imagine. The two of us are talking the same thing, basically.
So
it's nice to see a fellow disciple of the direct mail world out there.
Well, my latest thing, as you may have, I didn't mean to pick on anybody, but I kind of do that every day, was that the worst thing you could do is sell mail, because mail as an exercise, one failure and people will quit these days because they're just giving it a shot, and with basically skewed attribution, where they give credit to any time you've ever visited their website. They'll give all the credit to that, and have no knowledge of how to give causal force to the attribution. In that kind of world, you'll get a test, and that'll be about it. But what we need to be selling is how mail fits into the scientific method, of direct marketing. That's where I'm kind of going now.
Yeah, I totally would agree. I mean, I reiterate constantly that people don't test enough in direct mail.
Right.
I mean, it's so foolish. There's no self-respecting digital marketer who would assume that they knew out of the gate how something was going to work. So what they do, because it's relatively inexpensive, of course, is test 4, 5, 6 dozen scenarios, put it in front of a few tens of thousands, if not more, people, and see which sticks. And they know pretty quickly. And then they narrow it down in direct mail. People go, oh, I think I know what this is. And then they try it once, and then it doesn't work.
Right, exactly. And so that's kind of my mission now, is to try to educate people away from trying mail into testing and understanding.
Yeah, like if you're trying to talk to somebody who's been doing direct mail for 15 or 20 years, really the hardcore direct mail people are the worst ones to convert. I'd much rather us find a new crop.
Well, yeah, my hope is that the .coms start to realize how mail fits in that. I'm not sure, but I'm rereading Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, and in there he basically says if you're trying to convert people to a new use of something or a new view, it's almost impossible. And the illustration is, if you're trying to convince people to use toothpaste, now this is written in the 20s, so maybe in those days it wasn't a thing, but I don't know what the usage was. But he said, if you manage to achieve it, even if you do manage to achieve it, you're only going to benefit one sliver of the toothpaste market. So you're benefiting your competitors as much as you're benefiting yourself. And so I've quite figured out how to promote direct marketing and not, and it's a difficult puzzle to put that together. I'm going to promote it anyway till I die.
I feel like the way I try to line it up, and I do that when we do marketing campaigns here too, is I have a spreadsheet and it says, here's the idea that I'm trying to promote. And in each column, here's the channels that I'm going to use to promote it. And so I've got, phone, social media, LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, social media, Facebook, social media, Twitter. Then I'm gonna have a landing page for sure, and I'm gonna have video, maybe, and then I'm gonna have direct mail, and then I'm gonna say, well, who are the target audiences for each of those? So any message now has all these columns.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a digital marketer thinks like that. They just don't add direct mail to the columns yet. And why? Because they think kind of slow, or
very slow.
I'm not sure how I can measure it. And it sounds to me like a different skill set than anybody I have here. But when I line it up, I'm like, and the graphic designer is creating this form factor call to action image, and it's got to be like long and skinny for Twitter, and long and this for link, and and postcard like that. Like, it's the same process. I don't think of direct mail as being a thing. It's just one of the channels.
Well, that's a pretty common view these days. I spent about a year thinking about, because I was a pioneer in machine learning and AI. So my clientele has been big catalogers, big drops, $500,000 at a pop, and for 25 years I've been doing machine learning. We started with the Hudson Bay. That was our first one in '94, and I've made it work. And Cabela said that we made them $2.4 million the first drop. So that's real money, right? And I read in Gartner, that 87% of AI projects don't even get to ROI. And I think, wow, why was it that I've been able to do it and they can't? And the simple answer is that AI needs a labeled data set. It needs to know of the people that saw it, those that bought and those that didn't. And the advantage that mail has is that it's got 100% engagement. I argue that mail has 100% engagement, and of that, some buy and some don't. But that gives you the labeled data set. Like, when they taught Watson to play Jeopardy, they had 127,000 right and wrong answers, or right answers.
What we've been doing with some customers, it's my recommended way to proceed when I'm trying to get a digital marketer to do direct mail, is I label a data set. So I say, okay, what are you doing now? That's great. Here's all your digital channels. Give me a percentage. Let's call it 50%. And 50% of what the people who would normally get these are now going to get my additional mail piece.
Like a holdout sample.
It's exactly. And so then all you do, if it's retail e-commerce, just say, all right, so our test lasts 3 months. At the end of 3 months, because we know that people get a piece of mail and they hang on to it for anywhere from 15 to 25 days. So at the end of 3 months, we total the total revenue that you got from group A, and then total revenue from group B.
Right.
And then I'll tell you how much that cost you. It cost you X number of dollars to mail these people. How do you like your ROI?
Yeah, 300%, right? EBITDA.
And they go, I guess we should keep mailing that. And I'm like, yeah, so let's do it with the other 50% that we didn't mail to you. And if you have a doubting boss one time down the road who goes, why are you spending this money on the postcard? Well, then just take 50%. Don't do it for another 3 months.
Sure. That's what Guitar Center did, that over and over, 6 times in 6 years. They did huge 30,000 holdout tests and stuff. And we always won by a mile, 300% ROI or better. And And the funny part is that if you try to do the other any way you want, try to hold out LinkedIn or try to hold out Facebook or try to hold out darn near anything, you won't hardly see any effect. And so that's why I argue that mail is a good foundation to find out something for sure, because of the engagement, because it's such a high level engagement. And then you iterate it. Then you say, well, we can test offers too. Mail half of them one and half of them the other.
We were doing it live for e-commerce for a number of them. I've done them live until they settle down. They don't need very much, but
no, right. Sometimes you can.
We would do like every third card we were doing digitally would get a different offer.
Right.
And within 2 weeks, you know which one is the right one, right?
Right.
And then you move on and everyone settles down. But if they ever want to come back and go, hey, let's test another offer, it's like, okay, 5%, 10%, 20%, free shipping. What's the offer? Let's put them on. Every fourth card will get a different offer, and pretty soon you'll know which one people are accepting on based on who buys or what promo code they click or whatever. It's you can if postcards are and mailers are digital and fast and furious these days, sort of like triggered. I find that one of the most powerful things that the internet did for us is allow us to have triggered, like, I'm sending you this now. I'm placing the ad of the Toyota truck on your browser now because you just searched Toyota for a truck, or you'll try and watch something on YouTube and now you're seeing Toyota trucks before your music videos. Okay, I get that. That's the beautiful thing about digital. That's so now. But now you can do it with mail if you just plan and not think of it as like quarterly mailings or something. Quarterly mailings can't seize that.
Right. And there's a combination. And I would argue that any digital...
combination for sure.
Yeah.
You got to do a little of both, but you would be missing opportunities if you don't kind of look at the now. Since you've already realized
I agree.
and proven that works in digital, why wouldn't you try and do it in print?
Oh, sure. I agree. The hardest part with that is whenever I try it, you need 100,000 visitors in a fairly short window because it whittles itself down to 2,000 or 3,000 without much trouble, because they have to have an opt-in on something on Netflix or somewhere. A lot of times people want to limit it to that, and the bounce rate is 50%, so you lost half, and then you've lost half. You're down to 25 already before you even have any conditions on it. And you say, well, they should have hung around for at least 30 seconds or something. Oh, okay, then now you lost half again. Right? I mean, it whittles down pretty fast, and then you have to look them up and see if you can find them, and you don't find them.
Yeah. So what I all of that has to do with what I call the acquisition goal, right?
Right.
And so what I focus my business on is loyalty and retention.
Yeah, and that's where mail's really good.
I can't really compete with digital on acquisition.
Right. Good.
Unless I do like big, massive, every door direct mail kind of local, for Burger King and that kind of stuff. That's acquisition and whatever. But if you've already got an existing person buying your furniture from your site or sporting goods equipment like Cabela's, they probably do things like abandoned shopping cart or other triggered email, right?
Yeah.
And they have an email service provider. They're very trusted. They tie their website to this email service provider, and they send emails out every day. And it works because 40 or 50% of the people open those emails, and 10% of those close the deal. But the other 50% never see the email.
Right.
And I can send a postcard to Cabela's. If they send me the data before 8 a.m, I'm sending that postcard with either guns or fishing rods or clothing or whatever pictures on it, printed digitally into the U.S. Post Office 6 hours later.
Right.
And let me tell you, they will see huge revenue.
Have you tried abandoning a shopping cart on Cabela's and see if they do it?
We basically, in the same way as email service providers link to get data every day and do stuff, we link up either through an API or a flat file transfer, and they bing, bing, bing. We can even work with the email service provider sometimes. Like we can say, okay, you're already in there grabbing this data, just send it to us too.
Makes sense.
And that morning you're sending the emails and we're sending the postcards. It's good
How
to
did
have
you
water.
get? I want to get this question in because this is the way we used to start all of our conversations at, at the DMA shows
Yep.
back in the 80s. Was how did you get started in this? Because in those days there were no courses, and nowadays there aren't either.
So the very first label I ever put on anything was when I was 14 years old. My dad was helping launch Scholastic Books in Canada. It's a
Okay,
US company that sends books to schools.
sure,
The teachers would bring the catalogs to their students. The students would order books. The teachers would get rewarded
sure.
for sharing the catalogs. Everyone's familiar with Scholastic Books if they went to public school. So essentially, Scholastic Books was an early version of Amazon, right? Like it had a whole bunch of books on offer, and you could get them shipped right to you really
Right.
quickly. Check them off on the flyer and go. They had a huge computer. I used to just marvel at it when I was a teenager. Because they had every school in Canada times the number of teachers, times the number of classes, times the number of languages, times the number of books they ordered for every month of the year. In 1978, that was a lot of data to be keeping
Yeah.
and changing it and updating it every week or every month as you filled orders. So I saw labels, I saw data, I saw flyers going out every month to initiate action coming back, building a business that paid my dad, and then I got a job there as a kid, and I went off to school, did a little computer science, a little bit of this and that, at all languages and all kinds. I came back and my dad said, "You want to work with me for 6 weeks?" And 18 years later, my dad retired, and all that time we just kept doing things that were related to labels and print and data and marketing. That's it. That's the story. And I haven't been able to kick the habit. I think the problem is that in digital marketing, the person who runs the campaign, because of the simplicity of dashboards and stuff, runs the tests, executes it, sees the results, and makes the changes, and doesn't have to have a third party like buy the print, who's another expert. And so by doing that, they can measure it. They absolutely want to measure it. But when they go to direct mail, they go downstream to a print person who knows nothing about the measurements, results, and success mean. And they get such a divide between what their actual way of working is that they're used to, that instant feedback almost hourly, interest. And on top of that, the print buyer doesn't know what the frick they're doing. And
Right.
they're also at a loss to be able to help the poor digital guy.
Right.
We got a problem when we sell print and direct mail to the print department.
I agree. In fact, that's basically my mission is to explain direct marketing to printers because they don't know what it's about, and
You
the
said something
USPS.
earlier that resonated with me, which is trying to change people's attitude about stuff, and it may be hard because they're already like. I think it's one thing to change printers' attitudes. Include digital marketers who are like, oh, well, if you just made it easier for me, or I would buy more of this stuff if it works. If I can measure it and make it work, I'll find the right partners to do that.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview with Steve Falk. It sounds like he's got a great print operation and he can work with U.S. companies or Canadian ones. Obviously, he's in Canada. He's up by Toronto. But he can drop it in the USPS stream as well. So like and share. Your friends will know you're smart.